Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 22 for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the season finale here in our first ever outing on F1 22. It's been quite a whirlwind, quite a roller coaster to say it's the first one. Usually, we have to admit, the first season you're kind of learning the game, you don't maybe see too many crazy things happening, but in a first season ever, on a base game, vanilla game, no mods involved or whatever the case, we've had a pretty crazy time. There's been some very erratic times from some AI. We've had some pretty crazy races ourselves and some immaculate drives and some not so much as well. And it's made for a very, very topsy-turvy first season, which is going to end off in a finale that sees us still fighting McLaren for P7 in the Constructors. There are only a couple of points in it between us two teams, and they are the quicker car, so it's going to be a challenge to secure that P7 in that fight. And then of course on the other side of the spectrum, for the AI at the sharp end, there is still technically a fight between Verstappen and Leclerc. But following last episode, if you didn't watch that one by the way, then be sure to go check that one out, because it was a very shocking race, I guess you could say, with the winner and the podium at the Brazilian Grand Prix, we went from dry to wet. Following that race, I think you can very much say that Verstappen has one hand firmly on the Drivers' Championship trophy to do the back-to-back from last season. But we're still very much focused on ourselves and that fight with McLaren and improving the car and taking it further and further. And unfortunately, we hit a bit of a road bump going into this last episode of Season 1, where we have a failure on that engine power upgrade we just bought before, so we have to repurchase that. I mean, we've got enough R&D points to do so. We've got 2 engine upgrades then still pending, that means, but we do have the aero upgrade, that one we bought so long ago that failed and we have to rebuy it, and we were waiting for the regulation reset first of all. That finally is in, so it means at the end of this season, officially, we will end up being the 6th best team on the grid. We will be ahead of Alfa Romeo and Haas to end the year, which is pretty mad, because at one point halfway through this season, the AI teams around us caught up so much and were upgrading so much that we fell to the worst team on the grid from initially being like the 3rd worst, and climbing our way up, then kind of felt like we hit rock bottom again, had to go again, and eventually the momentum's built a bit. So it's been a funny old one. Like the races have been a bit of a roller coaster, our development has been a bit of a roller coaster. But I think now we're at a stage where into Season 2, we're just going to be up and up and up and looking to build this car up to get us into that proper fight, the fights you want to be in for, consistent big points, consistent podiums, and, well, eventually, fighting for a title and consistent win. But that kind of scenario is very much pending, and we're coming back to reality here. It's qualifying now for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the new layout for Abu Dhabi. So this is the final circuit, which has been completely changed and revamped since the last game. Of course, we early doors met the Australian Grand Prix, the new layout there. The Spanish Grand Prix, of course, so the last sector changing quite dramatically. And to be fair, quite a few tracks on this game have subtly have had updates, but obviously Abu Dhabi being a massive one. Sectors 1 and 3, very, very different, and we will get through into Q2. Of course, we should be aiming now to be getting into Q2 every episode now from now on from where the car is, but it's still been a bit of a challenge there. We had to do that second run, and only on that second run did we find enough time to get through. But I'm still lacking a bit of one-lap pace, it would seem, compared to our teammate Felipe Drogovic in P9 early doors. Of course, it's only the first session, so let's see how things go. But we now start our first flying lap in Q2. Yellow flags, though, in Sector 1, and quite annoyingly, Carlos Sainz is also starting his flying lap right behind me. I really hope he doesn't catch me up as we do this lap, and he doesn't, but that might be to the detriment of him. But I was basically worried, because he's in a Ferrari, of course, he was going to catch me and try and overtake me and block me off. And on the second run, we just got to stop meeting like this, Carlos, because he now tries to let me by, then kind of almost crashes into me in the in the new hairpin section, and then lets me by again on the outlap there. So yeah, very weird situation where me and Sainz met each other on both our flying laps, and you can understand why I'm cautious and a bit worried about that, because the last time I met Sainz on a lap like that was in France, where he just took me out by brake checking me in the middle of qualifying. So always a bit wary, but here we are then, second flying lap in Q2, bit wide at the last corner, looking to gain enough time to get into Q3, but I don't think it's going to be enough. That mistake at the end may have cost me too much there, and it's only P15 for us. Drogovic is through, only just though, I must say, in P10, so it's been quite a competitive qualifying here. But the biggest shock of this qualifying is not myself being knocked out and Drogovic getting through. It is that Max Verstappen, the championship leader, did not set a time in that second session. Something must have gone wrong there. Maybe that's why that yellow sector was out in sector 1. I don't know. Did he retire like as he came out the pit lane or something? I don't know. I missed it, and there's no way to check back on a replay of what happened, but he has not set a time, so that would suggest to me that his car's had a fault and is retired. His teammates had that before. Sergio Perez, remember at Baku, where he retired at the start of the session and didn't set a time properly. Sainz as well is knocked out along with me, so I guess in the end he probably should have kind of, waited for a bit more clean air alongside myself. But that is big news then, and that might raise the eyebrows a bit of Ferrari and Leclerc. He is mathematically still in this fight, but he needs to gain over 20 points in order to beat Verstappen to the title, to his first ever title in Formula 1. If Verstappen was to score no points, that obviously would go a long way. So Ferrari may be licking their lips a little bit. This might be their opportunity if Leclerc can go and qualify well in Q3 and then have a good race tomorrow. Well, I guess that leaves it, a little bit more interesting, I guess, now for this AI fight into tomorrow's race. Let's go to the grid and see how Leclerc qualified.
It's time then for one final race in this year's Formula 1 World Championship. 2010 saw 4 drivers in contention for the title coming into this race, with Sebastian Vettel prevailing to become the youngest world champion to date. Is the one last sting in the tail awaiting us today? It's time to find out in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We have 16 corners here at Yas Marina Circuit, 7 to the right and 9 to the left. It's a total lap distance of 3.28 miles, 2 long straights and overtaking opportunities throughout the lap. And we expect average lap speeds of around 123 miles per hour. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo and Bottas, Gasly, Norris, Leclerc, the owner driver, Ocon, they've taken a grid penalty, Drogovic, Mick Schumacher and Magnussen, Albon, Sainz, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll, Verstappen, Joe, they've taken a grid penalty, Vettel and Nicholas Latifi. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. It's just about time to go to the track for the beginning of the race, but before we do, Anthony Davidson, what types of strategy do you think we can expect for today's event?
Well, there's a lot that both the driver and the team have to keep in mind when going into a race. The tyres, fuel, energy recovery systems, the list goes on and on. But I think the key to today's victory will come down to the pit stop strategy. Come in too soon and you might find yourself needing more than one stop. Too late and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by spending longer on worn tyres.
Right, well, we've got a very interesting lineup as we line up alongside Leclerc in the Ferrari. So it seemed like it was an okay qualifying for him, but he's been hit with a smaller engine penalty or grid penalty. Verstappen has been hit with a further penalty from where he even finished in qualifying in Q2 in P15. So he's a bit further back than he actually was on Saturday then. So that's good news for Ferrari, but still they would have wanted more, and it's a bit of a shame for them to not be right at the front to make the most of this. So even though Verstappen is way back towards the back of the grid, Leclerc is still not in a great position to make the most of it, because he needs to go and basically win the race. Even if he gets second and the fastest lap, that's 19 points. that's still not enough for him to overturn Verstappen if Verstappen gets no points today. So Leclerc from P9 literally just has to aim for first place, and that's it. Nothing else will do. So I think Verstappen and Red Bull will still be quietly very confident. The egg is still in their basket because there's so much for Ferrari and Leclerc to do today. You've got so many competitive fast cars ahead of us that he's got to try and fight through. And that includes the two McLarens who are ahead of us. Drogovic gets hit with another penalty, so he's behind us. So both of us have to be on our A game because we cannot let this slip. We worked so hard this season. I do not want to lose the P7 in the Constructors on the last race. Drogovic did so well last episode to outscore the McLarens and get that, really lofty, what was it, P6 to score those points to get back ahead. So I don't want to undo that work he did at Sao Paulo, undo the work we've done over the course of the season. So let's go out there one final time in Season 1 here for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Who's going to win the title? Who's going to get P7 in the Constructors? We're about to find out as we go to 5 red lights to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and we are underway. We faced our car towards the middle of the circuit to try and get through, but in the end, this space is going to be on the inside there. It's a double overtake for us into turn 1 on Norris and Leclerc, who are both equally quite poor off the line. So already not ideal for Leclerc, who then falls behind Drogovic maybe on the top left there, as we're trying to have a look now at Pierre Gasly, Ricciardo and Bottas fighting. Norris comes back at us though into the brand new longer swoop left-hander hairpin corner onto this slingshot onto the back straight. Gasly still P7, giving us a good fight in the AlphaTauri car. We don't want to overuse ERS too much, but I really do fancy getting ahead of Pierre and trying to stick on the back of Ricciardo, who gets squeezed out by Bottas and is so slow over the curb that we actually threw on the outside into P6, but a massive tank slapper on the rear end will re-invite Ricciardo to come re-engage us and overtake us for P6. We're now side by side into the new left-hander, that banked left-hander into Sector 3. Ricciardo on the outside, and we're just unsure of when I can put down full throttle on this heavy fuel car, and Ricciardo is able to, oh my, just scare us off the racing line pretty much there with how close his rear ended. I would have committed there, but I think the chances of a bit of contact with sim damage, that could have ended quite badly. So let's be a bit patient on lap 1 and move and wait till lap number 2 in the same area though to make a move. So this would be quite good revenge on Ricciardo to get it done here. We're on the inside. Ricciardo is going to step out a bit on the throttle pedal. I guess he kind of felt the pressure there, and it's such a tricky corner to gauge, to be honest, even for myself, because you're not sure how quickly that curb on the outside's going to come at you when you go full throttle, and with the banking as well can catch you out, especially on this year's handling model, and the AI finding it tricky as well, then it would seem. So we are up into P6. Drogovic, after initially being quite punchy, is in P12, so still trying to make progress. We see Norris, though, attacking Leclerc, so this is the opposite of what the Ferrari needs. He needs to be just clearing cars. As we now move back to a nose cam with Felipe Drogovic being overtaken by Gasly. He was trying a move, actually, so first time of asking, not going to work out, but now there's a second bite of the cherry. The DRS opens again. Drogovic will re-engage with this fight on the outside. Meanwhile, Norris and Leclerc are still fighting as well up the road. Drogovic, though, the long way round, still going, and he's going to force his way through and carve a path up into P11. What a move there. We definitely need to, take note of that. Need to take in some inspiration there. Drogovic showing our car very much has the downforce and the grip to make a move on the outside there with the DRS. I'll remember that one is now, oh, Norris is in. Norris is in. Damage maybe perhaps on the fight with Leclerc, and that's big news for us then, because it means there's only one McLaren now really in the fight properly in the top 10 for points today, and it's Daniel Ricciardo. That's great news for us. For Leclerc, I guess that's also a relief that one McLaren is not going to be annoying him. Verstappen, meanwhile, his rival, down in P16, but it doesn't matter. As long as Leclerc is not up there in P1, Verstappen can just have a bit of a holiday this race, because mathematically it's all looking good in his world, and it may be looking good for us as we try and make a move now on Bottas, the next car up, the Alfa Romeo. We should be able to take the fight to him now these days, because our car is quicker on paper on the R&D shot, and we make a lovely move. Fake to the left, go to the right, as I've noticed the AI seem to be pinching quite hard this year on the inside. So actually, I recommend trying the overtake on the outside because it gets you to the inside for the second part of that chicane at the end of the back straight. Now lap 6 though, making moves. Ricciardo, he saw what up we did, and he's trying to follow us through and keep the pressure on for that P7 fight as the Australian through on the inside. But Bottas is giving the good old squeeze, and that may just help close the Ferraris up. And you know, Leclerc ideally needs to just fly through Bottas, Ricciardo, me, and then set his sights of closing up on the top 4, as Alonso, we see in the top left there, just overtook Hamilton. But we're focusing on this fight between Leclerc, one of the championship rivals here, because he's still stuck behind these guys, as Bottas just re-overtook Ricciardo. So, like I said, so many competitive... Oh, he's made a mistake! Oh, Leclerc! He's gone straight off, and now Sainz is going round the outside. He's on the soft compound, Sainz is a very weird... So he's already committed to the 2-stop then, Sainz has, along with Verstappen, I believe. But Leclerc's in a race where he has to win this race for any chance of winning this first Drivers' Championship. He pits early on lap 6 onto 7, and it's because of damage, I'm sure. Yes, it is a front wing change there. He went off, and I had a hunch and kind of a bit of a worry that he maybe made contact with his teammate Sainz. And ironically, Verstappen is in the same lap, and Verstappen, well, like Sainz, was already on the soft compound. He's now gone to medium. So although Verstappen is on a 2-stop and will be making one more stop, Leclerc's onto hards and is going to the end of this race then, which begs the question why Verstappen can't just try that as well. Basically now, Verstappen can properly relax because Leclerc's going to be nowhere near getting first place. This is an implosion for Ferrari, and Leclerc there, I mean, was already feeling the pressure anyway of so many cars to overtake, but then going off, making contact with his own teammate. Maybe there was contact with the McLaren, to be fair, and Bottas before that actually warranted. Maybe that's why he went off in Sector 3. It was because of damage already. We don't know. I can't confirm that for sure. But either way, he is now completely on the back foot, and Verstappen is still in the same position as he has been the entire race, just taking it easy. He doesn't really need to even score any points today. Back to our world though, no damage, and we continue on these mediums till our pit stop window opening in about 2 laps time. But now Latifi has hit the wall, the infamous wall, the same wall he hit in 2021, and he's brought out this safety car. But this one is 1/3 into the race, and this will be quite nice timing for myself and everyone really for our first pit stop. So we're all going to get a free pit stop then. So this is even worse news for the likes of people who just made their pit stops earlier, because we all now get a free chance to come in. It's going to be a double stack for Mercedes though, so that'll be a bit frustrating for Hamilton. We are in though. Let's see how this is going to go for us. Hopefully not too bad. Ricciardo is behind us, so please no mistakes here. Pit crew, yeah, we're all fine, and we're going to be coming out still ahead of Ricciardo. Unfortunately, Drogovic does have to double stack, so he will fall behind a little bit. But I believe your top 3 then are George Russell, who got the lead from the get-go after Perez was on pole, but Russell with a good start on lap 1 and has held the lead ever since. And I believe 3rd place is Fernando Alonso, ahead of Hamilton, and Hamilton now has ended up right ahead of me. And we got a few cars out of sync. Guan Yu Zhou, Lance Stroll, I don't think yet they've made a pit stop yet, so we are technically now, well, this is Hamilton ahead of us. He's going to be in P4 eventually, so if we can try and catch Hamilton here a bit, you know, catch him out behind Guan Yu Zhou and Stroll, we could be looking at, you know, trying to maybe cheekily secure a P4, but obviously the Mercedes car is very rapid, so I don't know how long we'll be able to hold him up for, but we're going to go for it at least here, because Ricciardo is directly behind me, so we're not trying to go forwards, then we're going to fall backwards into the clutches of Ricciardo. And you can see what I mean ahead of us. Guan Yu Zhou there already looking a bit slow in the Alfa Romeo, but for me, twitchy on the rear end, these hard tyres still not warming up completely on the restart here. Hamilton is going for a move now on the Alfa Romeo, but can we just catch him out? Because the Alfa Romeo puts him in an awkward position, bit of a bump over, and the Alfa Romeo is still side by side with him. That'll slow him down. We get a good launch, we avoid the curb, a lot of ERS usage, and the Mercedes car, he's slow as we try and catch a bit of a slipstream on the Mercedes car, having to squeeze Guan Yu Zhou on the left-hand side. Round the outside, though, and taking a leaf out of Drogovic's book from early in the race, overusing the ERS a little bit, but to secure the overtake on one Sir Lewis Hamilton up into P7 then in this race. Will be P4 eventually though, because I don't think Ocon's pit, Magnus and Stroll still yet to pit ahead of us then, so we will be into P4 eventually, because there goes Ocon, there goes Stroll, there goes Magnussen, and so yeah, it will be then Russell who leads the way again from Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso in his last ever race, remember, in this career mode save as he retires into Season 2 in 3rd place, and then we are now in P4. After Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas and Drogovic now into P8, having overtaken Gasly, Leclerc and Verstappen now awkwardly right next to each other in the circuit, and Leclerc is desperate now, going for a late lunge on Gasly into the hairpin, and Gasly waves Verstappen by. The junior Red Bull team obviously not getting in the middle of the fight, and Verstappen, you know, might actually even have a chance to attack Leclerc, because Verstappen's on a 2-stop, so he's on a quicker compound, so it might be, you know, very, very annoying for Leclerc, but Verstappen is going to, in fact, maybe look to overtake him on circuit and add a bit of salt to the wounds of where he doesn't want to be. You know, he's in P9, so far away from the P1 he needs for any chance of getting this championship, but Verstappen goes round the outside to frankly embarrass Leclerc and Ferrari a little bit here, because he doesn't even need to make a move like this, because he knows that he's got so much to do, Leclerc does, but he's overtaken him nonetheless, and he's up into P9 now. Obviously though, with the 2-stop, didn't even matter though, he pits again, he's down to P18, but Leclerc is still there in P9, not made any progress. We're still here in P4, Hamilton behind, still ever present, and pressurising for the last 5 laps of this race. Lap 19, 10 laps to go, we're still managing to keep him behind. Leclerc looking to make moves now and getting desperate with a big lunge on Ricciardo as well. That was a real late decision by him. He was already overtaking Drogovic into that corner, but I think it was a late decision to try and make a move on Ricciardo. It didn't quite work out, and maybe even a bit of contact made. He needs to watch it out, because with sim damage, this could be some hefty mistakes for him if he gets crossed up behind in these cars, as Hamilton now looks to make a move. He goes from the outside to the inside now for a big lunge, and we have to give him some room to work with as he goes for the kamikaze dive, and now Bottas sends it through. We have to give him a bit of space there, because I don't want to get punted off and make contact myself, because although P4 would be quite good, we're just thinking about outscoring Ricciardo here today, the only McLaren at the moment in the points, and we're now trying to squeeze out Bottas and desperately keep the P5 at least. But I say that, Lando Norris is in P11 now, and he's actually just behind Drogovic, who I believe as well, my engineers told me now, may have some mechanical issues, and he's now been overtaken by Norris into turns 2, that is, and an orthodox place to get overtaken at, and now Drogovic is down to P12, so he's definitely got an issue. He's definitely got a mechanical issue in that car, because he's now slipped down to P15 on lap 22, as we watch Leclerc again trying to make progress in this race, again getting a bit flustered in the traffic, making some contact with Bottas there as he tries to get up into P6, but he's done it, to be fair to him. So now, could he come out and overtake us and then chase after the top 4 pack? He's got 7 laps to go though, so the win is going to have to take some miracle here today. It's now behind. His teammate gets caught up in fighting Pierre Gasly and the McLarens, and I think that's signed to that. No front wing. Yep, the Spaniard has no front wing, and he's still managing to keep it side by side with the AlphaTauri. I don't know how he's done that and not just had a horrendous crash. Fair play to him, but he's got no front wing, so that's one Ferrari with a disastrous second half of the race then, and Leclerc is now in for a pit stop, and it's not a scheduled one because he's on hard tyres. He should be going to the end of the race, and I wonder, is he going to be putting on a new front wing? I think there is a new front wing. Yes, there is one ready, and that is a sorry sight. It is an implosion, a disaster, a calamity for Scuderia Ferrari in all senses, because this now guarantees that there is no way Charles Leclerc will be a new Drivers' World Champion today. Max Verstappen has already got this booked in. He is going to be a back-to-back World Champion, and you know what? Because of Russell leading this race now, right now, and Hamilton P4, Ferrari, they could technically be on to be losing their Constructors lead, which would be a double double blow for them. That would just be frankly embarrassing compared to how dominant they were at the start of the season. But it's been a horrendous sequence of laps for them. Meanwhile, back in our world, we're just looking and hoping that we're not going to mess up our own constructors fight. At the moment then, we're in P5, Ricciardo P7, but here comes Norris in P9. He's fought his way back from the early pit stop for damage, and he's in the points, and he's looking to make up positions to P8, so that'll secure him 4 points instead of just 2 for the P9 position. Meanwhile, Ricciardo in P7 pressurizing Valtteri Bottas, and Bottas makes a mistake. He locks up and Ricciardo's through. What timing that was for the two McLarens making their own individual moves. So Ricciardo now moves up 1 position behind me, so he'll be gaining, 10 points today. Norris then with 4, so McLaren will score 14 points as it stands. I'll score 12, so they'll gain 2 points on us in the Constructors. There are only 3 points in it between ourselves and them, the P7. So right now, there's only McLaren only going to lose P7 by 1 point. This is, my God. So that means if Lando's actually able to go and get Bottas, then McLaren will do it, because I've not got Drogovic scoring any points because of that mechanical failure. So the tension is on. McLaren could do this. All they need to do is get 1 more position with Lando on Valtteri Bottas. So lap 28, the second last lap of the Grand Prix, and we're still here in the same positions. We've got P5, Ricciardo P6, and Norris P8, but he's closing up and well within 1 second of Valtteri Bottas on this exit. Oh my God! What the hell just happened there? Oh my! Norris has made a horrendous mistake in the crucial moment. He's cracked under pressure. It's an AI mistake like you've never seen. That was a massive spin for him under acceleration there. And oh, we make a mistake though as we go over the bump, and now Ricciardo has a good exit on us, and the Aussie is through up into P8. He's going to outscore us. Bottas now comes through to make it 3 wide. Bottas overtakes both of us. They're now side by side. Bottas locks up though, and we're back through. Oh my God, it's all kicking off here in like the span of like 1 straight. I went from going from P5 to P7 back to P5, all thanks to Bottas and Ricciardo scrapping out. But thankfully with that move and then this earlier mistake here, just listen on the throttle, it's just one of those AI mistakes basically where they make a bit of a throttle mistake and they spin out. We've seen it a few times here, and we've seen even Lando's AI do it once before at Zandvoort, but that is why he made the error then under pressure looking to overtake Bottas. And this is our mistake then on board Ricciardo. You can see what I basically do. I just take way too much sausage curb and I basically bounce over the curb, and that unsettles the rear. Bottas then has a great run on both of us with DRS, gets the slipstream, goes down the inside of Ricciardo, but then we are gifted the fact that he then locks up. So there's so many AI mistakes here in the last phase of this race. You know, it's the last, 2 laps of this entire season, so pressure's on, and it was too much then for some of the AI. But George Russell has not buckled under pressure. He's led from the very first lap and will win the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso, in his last ever race in this game on this save of ours, retires out of Formula 1 with a podium. Hamilton's P4 though, will secure Mercedes, I'm pretty sure, the Constructors title. Can you believe it? The Silver Arrows are still going to win the Constructors here in 2022. Meanwhile for us, on the last lap of the Grand Prix, into this same section where Ricciardo overtook us on the inside of this same corner, this time we won't feel the pressure. We'll keep our foot in and we'll keep Ricciardo behind. It's been a tough old race, a lot of tension there for a bit, because at one point I really thought McLaren could somehow outscore us because of our lack of a teammate in the points, but we've done enough and the F1 gods have looked down upon us as we've gained enough points to keep McLaren at bay and to secure P7 in the Constructors' Championship. And in the fight for the title, like I said, the Silver Arrows, funny enough, come through to win it, but Max Verstappen ends up winning another Drivers' World Championship, back-to-back World Champion.
And with that, another year of Formula 1 draws to a close and a new World Drivers' Champion is declared. Another entry added to that prestigious list of the sport's most incredible drivers. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions, I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
It is quite something, though. Russell wins the last race, and, you know, from where they started at the start of this season, remember the first couple episodes of this series, where Mercedes were, the fact that we've seen some really bonkers natural AI improvements, the R&D, like I said, it's been great to see that on this year's game, compared to previous ones, we've seen the grid converge a lot more, and the kind of the grid spread is closing so much quicker within just one single season, which is great in terms of the racing and the competitiveness, and it's meant that, well, funnily enough, Mercedes still win the Constructors' Championship, even though Red Bull and Ferrari have been probably the quickest car overall. Merc, they've been so quick at times, and more importantly, consistent, and both of them, both Russell and Hamilton, have scored wins, podiums, good points, and so they have done enough, along with the Ferrari implosion. Let's not forget, a big part of the reason why Silver Arrows have won the Constructors is because Ferrari, what a stinker of a race for them, as they lose the Constructors title. They had this nailed on for the whole season, and they've lost it in the last race, down to second, and Leclerc cannot do anything to overturn the 20 points. He even loses 2 more points to Verstappen, who secures a back-to-back World Championship. But that has been then Season 1. We have secured P7 in the Constructors title, and we will go into the winter break in a really good position, I think, to catapult ourselves up to a good position in Season 2. I'll leave you guys with that, and all will be revealed in the pre-season video for Season 2 in a couple of days' time. But guys, if you have enjoyed this one, and you have enjoyed the first season on F1 22, my team career mode, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.